Hello! I'm a total Duolingo fiend. I play it every day, I play it every second I get, and I'm learning a ton. I'm learning myself 7 languages, and I have about 56,000 XP. I've been doing it consecutively for 300 days, 303 days to be exact, and I'm sure many more. Does it work? Absolutely. It's like assimilation, repetition, but it's a game. So you're not actually going to school like you used to when you were a kid. And you know, if you think about it, when you go to school and you learn a language, you're not coming out of class learning a language. You have to do your due diligence. After you've learned the foundation, which is the basics of any language, you need to learn the vocabulary, the grammar, how things work, how things become plurals. Like you really need to learn the basics of a language, and then you need to listen, you need to hear it, you need to understand it, you need to be able to speak it, but then you have to be face to face with someone of that language and actually practice. So even though Duolingo will teach you the basics, you have to have a plan so that when you're done, when you think you're somewhat ready, you submerge yourself in that culture. For example, right next to my house there is a Russian store, and so I love what I love their produce, I love what they do. But when I go there, I open my ears, I listen to things, and when I hear someone ordering bread, wow, I recognize the word. Like, I'm still a very small beginner in Russian. It's a very complex language, but at the same time, I'm open to starting to hear it. I'm able to recognize the letters. So when they have posters, I look at the posters, I'm like, wow, I can actually read this and decipher. So it's super exciting, it's fun. That's also a huge key. You need to have fun with it. Avoid getting too competitive and too hard on yourself. Just go with the flow, enjoy the lessons, and you'll see it'll be much easier. Once you think you're ready to understand the language, it's always good to have a plan to practice more than just what Duolingo has to offer. So what I start to do is I start to watch series in that language, or what I do is I put my YouTube videos or my Netflix videos into the subtitle of that language so that I'm kind of getting familiarized with the way they say things. Make sure that you find ways to practice the language, to hear the language, and you will be surprised that Duolingo will give you everything you need to just then learn that language and be extremely proud. Now, let me tell you something. When you meet someone, let's say that's Spanish, and you speak to them in English, you'll have a certain conversation with them. The moment you speak their language, you switch to Spanish, it's a whole new world. You'll experience a completely new way of expressing yourselves, and it creates some closeness. It's just a very different thing. I love speaking the language of the person I'm talking to, because you don't say the same thing, you don't say it the same way, and it's really just super interesting how it just opens a whole new universe and expression. So if you don't speak any languages, I highly recommend that you start. It's a phenomenal way, and it's also very good for your brain. It really works on your short-term and long-term memory, and particularly when you learn a hard language like Russian. For French person, it's not the same alphabet. There is nothing that I can attach myself to have any kind of comprehension except studying and recognizing things with my... It's actually interesting because I find myself really surprised that I do remember things, even though it's just such strange shapes and such strange sounds, but somehow the brain has a way of figuring things out, which is really impressive. And so it's exciting. So here are some tips for you if you start Duolingo. First of all, try to do it every day. It's really important to just find those empty moments in your life. Just grab your phone and do a class. You don't need very much, but you need to keep the repetition. I wake up in the morning while I'm having my coffee, I do Duolingo. Then I do meditation, or vice versa. When I walk my dog, I do Duolingo. If I'm waiting at the doctor's office, I'm doing Duolingo. If I'm online at the supermarket, I'm doing Duolingo. It's just one of those things that I just consider doing every time I have a blank, and I have fun with it. And so it keeps me on my toes, and it keeps me remembering the languages. Particularly if you're learning a language, again, like Russian is a perfect example, because for me it's a challenge. You don't want to live a month without looking at it, because then you go back to zero. Your mind has forgotten everything, and it's really, really hard to go back to it. So keep the repetition as often as possible, at least daily. 15 minutes daily is really what's recommended. So go for it. I don't recommend you purchasing Duolingo. I do it for free. You are welcome to if you want to, but most of the time you're going to be on this app for many, many years, so why spend the money when they offer it for free? I really don't mind looking at the ads. I really don't mind the hearts, and it doesn't really give you very much more when you do the super Duolingo. So I'm cool with doing it the free way. You do your thing, I do my thing, but I don't recommend you necessarily have to purchase it, particularly if you have a small budget. It's a free app. It's fantastic. You can learn any language you want, and you don't have to break the bank. So do it for free. When your hearts are depleted, they'll ask you to purchase Duolingo. Actually, a really good learning tool that I use is, let's say I'm studying Spanish, which I think I'm almost fluent in. I lose all my hearts, and instead of doing Spanish, I will turn to Russian, and I will do the practice to earn hearts in Russian. So then it allows me to go back to previous lessons in Russian, so that I recall the vocabulary, the grammar, and things like that. And I do it in Russian and not in Spanish, because for me it's worth more, because I really need my memory to it's like brain dead repetition. I need to, in order to enter my skull, I need to listen to it over and over and over again. And so I do that every time I'm using it I'm doing Duolingo in Italian, whatever language, and I lose my hearts. I open a really complex language, I do the practice heart, and I regain my hearts that way. And so it does two things. I get back my heart so I can go to another language, but I also practice the hard language over and over and over and over again. And so one of these days I will understand it all, and then I can proceed to the next lesson. That's a trick I have. I hope it works for you, but I find it very useful for me. When you have bad days, or you open a class and you realize that it's really difficult, it's very challenging, you can do one of two things. You can either close Duolingo and say, you know what, it's too complicated, forget about it, which is the easy way out. But you can also do another thing, is you move forward. You can cheat a little bit, look at the vocabulary, go slowly, lose your hearts, do the trick I told you about. But at the end of the day, it's sometimes really good to push forward when it's hard, because somehow a few days or a few weeks after that, you're going to have assimilated it and be like, oh my God, it was so hard and now it's so easy. It's happened to me, particularly in Russian. Like, there are moments where I feel like, oh my God, this is Chinese to me. And after a couple of weeks, I'm like, Jesus, I've learned all this vocabulary and I can understand it. I can hear it. When people are talking around me in Russian, I understand what they're saying. It's pretty cool. So don't be disheartened. Just, keep going and always move forward. Try to not do too many backtracking if you're not 100%, because somehow the way Duolingo is built is for you to just increase your vocabulary, your comprehension, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's really made intelligently for you to proceed. It's almost like when someone is learning a language and they tell you, oh, I don't feel comfortable, I don't know it 100%. Well, if you're not comfortable, it's because it's not your language. You're never going to know it 100%. In fact, I'm French. I don't speak French 100%. I'm, always trying to learn new vocabulary. I make errors, whatever. Like, you always have to... You have space to learn in every language and your own. So, just proceed with caution, move forward, keep going, don't lose hope. If you don't understand something, it's okay, it's gonna come. Like Duolingo is just gonna do it for you. It's going to recognize things that you don't understand and bring it back to you just as much and as often as you need, so that one day it sticks. So keep at it. You want to connect with your friends if you can. I have several of my close friends that are on Duolingo, and it's really cool because we're kind of like seeing each other's progress, seeing each other's days and what league we're on, and we're congratulating each other. And when we see each other, we're kind of talking, oh my God, you're doing your 100th day, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of fun. And it keeps you wanting to continue, wanting to learn, particularly when you're having a blah day and you're like, I'm never going to get this. Well, you will. And sometimes having your friends pushing you along is a good thing. So I recommend you connect to some of your good friends that you know are going to follow up, and to make sure that they're keeping you on your toes so that you don't give up. I know that there are leagues that you need to proceed on Duolingo, Obsidian, Diamond. You have to move to the next one, and you have to compete and have more XP than the person above you. I personally don't follow it. I find it I'm not really interested in the competition. Some people are crazy about it, so go for it if that's your thing. But it's constantly asking you to do more, to be above everyone else, and you get really nothing in return at the end, and you're constantly having to push yourself. I don't really like to feel that pressure on me, so I could care less. I think I'm in Obsidian. My priority is to learn the language and to do it at my own speed. But if you want to get to the next league, the few things that I would tell you is you need to kind of look at those few days that you have before it jumps you to the next league, and then you cram. So you try to wait for those double XPs, either by they happen during the day sometimes when you do something awesome, and then you have 15 minutes of double XP. When that happens, boom, you jump into super easy lessons or stories, and you just get as many points as you can. You can go from 50 XP, 90 XP in one thing, so it really brings you up. And also at 6 p.m. every day you have the double XPs, so that's when you're also gonna cram. And so you do this 1 or 2 days before they jump you to the next league, and then wow, you make it and you're jumped up. So if that's your thing, go for it. It's really fun, it's challenging, and if you have the time and you have the desire, go for it. I'm sure you can make it. Also, there are some time challenges that you can do. You have to be careful because usually the first, second, third steps are easy, and then you lose your time. And what I'm saying by that is that you're trying to do a class and you don't have enough time, so it's going to try to sell you time. And so I find it to be unpleasant. I just take it as far as I can and then I stop, because I don't spend money on Duolingo. Even though they say it's 99 cents or whatever, I don't need it. I do the things that are free, and if I see that it's trying to push me to purchase something, I'm not interested. So I do the speed classes. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not. You have to match the words really quickly, or you have to do the letters, the sentences very quickly. But it gets you some points, so try them out, do them. But again, I think for me the most important is the lessons. I also recommend you use Duolingo for a few different languages, so that if, let's say, you're stuck with learning Russian and you're challenged and it's not fun for you anymore, well, you don't have to get off Duolingo. You just decide, what, today my mind is not in the mood for Russian. I'm not having a good day. I'm not able to concentrate. So just jump out and do something easy. Maybe you want to jump in Portuguese or Italian or Spanish, or depending on your language, something that's closer to your own language, so that your brain can breathe and you don't feel overwhelmed. And so I have those 7 languages on Duolingo. I'm doing Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, French, which is my language, but I'm doing it really advanced for like, some spelling errors or vocabulary, or, I just want to brush up. I do Russian, Arabic, and Creole. So I actually have 7 languages that I'm learning. And so I go from one to the other. And sometimes I do, one language per class. Sometimes for 1 week I only do one language. Sometimes I, get annoyed by a language and I forget it for a while. And sometimes I meet someone from that language and then I'm like, oh my God, I just spoke Portuguese. I want to go back to my Portuguese. I want to brush up. So, it gives you an opportunity to just do what you want and move. I mean, you're learning. Every time you use Duolingo and you're doing a language, you're learning a little bit more. And so the repetition is really good for you, and the practice is really ultimately super important. So, jump in and keep at it. When you are opening a class in Duolingo, you need to know that everything you're looking at, the way it's built, is you're not just concentrating in what they're asking you to do. If there is a sentence with one missing word, most of the time the words on the sentence, all of them are important. So you need to really pay attention, stay focused, look at the way everything is written, look at the grammar, pay attention to the whole sentence. If you can, I recommend you always say things out loud. Also, try not cutting them off. If they're reading something and you know the answer, just don't jump in and do the answer. I mean, you're not a second away from a catastrophe. Just breathe, take your time, listen to the way they're saying things. Then you do what they're telling you to do. Make sure you look at the accents. When you write, try to include the accents, because I know it's easy not to, but then you won't remember to put those accents. So, get in the habit of writing the accents. Also, when you write, there are 2 ways to do so. You either write it or you say it. And I like to do one or the other. Sometimes it's good to say it because you're practicing your your speaking ability, and sometimes you write it, and that's also another way to stick more into your brain and to learn the vocabulary. So try to do a little bit of both whenever possible. At the end of the day, if you're studying a language in Duolingo, you should be super proud of yourself, because a lot of people don't speak another language, and I think it's really shameful. Not shameful, but it's really a shame not to give yourself the ability to. We're on a huge planet. There's so many languages out there, and it's not that difficult to learn them. And really, when you meet someone from that language and you say a few words, or you're able to understand or comprehend when they're talking amongst themselves, and to express yourself in their language, it's a whole different approach. It's a whole different communication skill. You change completely the way you communicate. It's like you get another persona, kind of. It's super cool. So if you don't know another language, get on Duolingo and start learning one. Duolingo just came up with a new look. Instead of being different lessons with 5 layers, 5 levels, and you can pretty much do them at your own pace, and then you jump into stories and you jump into whatever else they're offering. Now it's not like that anymore. They packed everything up, and it's kind of like this long path. It's a little bit longer, it seems. I like it and I don't, but I'm not difficult, so I'm gonna let them do their thing. But it's kind of like taking the control out of you. I think it's always hard to accept change, major change like that in anything. So I'm kind of struggling with it, but for example, in other languages I don't mind as much. But with Russian, I really find it very, very difficult and challenging. So for me, it was really good for me to repeat lessons over and over again, and take it all the way to the end so that it was assimilated before I jumped to the next one. With this new version, I can't do that. Like, it's really propelling me forward, and so I have so many new words coming my way that at the end of the day I'm submerged and lost, and it's challenging. And when it's too challenging, it's not fun anymore. You lose the ability to comprehend and to follow. So that I find it super annoying. So that's why I do this thing where I use the practice hearts in that language, because otherwise I get totally overwhelmed, and if it goes too fast for me, I'm lost, and when I'm lost, I don't want to play anymore. I'm done. I don't want to have fun. So I'm not thinking they're going to go back to the previous one, but they're testing it. So, if anything, hopefully they will give us a little control over what we want to do a little bit more, because they went from giving us a lot of control to giving us none. So I'm sure they're listening to what we're all saying and that they'll make some tweaks. I also really like the stories, so don't take those away. It's really important. It's really fun. So these are my 2 cents about the changes. Do you like the changes, by the way? Tell me in the comments below which Duolingo you like. And also let me know if you are learning a language, what language it is, and how you feel about Duolingo, and is it helping you in the end? I'm interested to know what your experience is with that app, which I love. I think it's the most amazing app in the world for language learning. So thank you, Duolingo, for putting this together. And on a last note, I would like to speak to Duolingo. I know that they are saying that they're providing a ton of languages and that they are giving us the opportunity to learn languages that are, forgotten. And there is my request. I would like Duolingo to add Tibetan. I think it's fundamental that Tibetan is not forgotten. You all know about Tibet and how it was swallowed by China. But there are still 6.7 million people speaking Tibetan in the world, and many more that are studying Tibetan Buddhism. It's a language of compassion. It's a language of wisdom. It's an incredible culture that absolutely cannot die. So please, I beg you, for all of us Tibetan Buddhists, for the Dalai Lama, for anyone that has any foot in Buddhism, please, please, please do me a favor, add Tibetan to Duolingo. I would be the first one to sign in and to take that class, and I think it would be welcomed by millions of people around the world. So I hope you're listening to this and that at some point you will include Tibetan. I search for it every so often, and I'm always heartbroken when I see that it's not in Duolingo. Why not? You have Navarro, but you don't have Tibetan? Come on, Tibetan. Add Tibetan to Duolingo and do it now. Another language I'm interested in is Malagasy. It's all the people that live in Madagascar. There are 28 million people in Madagascar, and Malagasy is a really beautiful language. I believe it's a mixture of Malaysian, African, I really don't know about it, but I would really need to learn this language, and for some reason it is not on Duolingo. So please, please, please add Malagasy to Duolingo as well. Do it for me, and I will also be putting it in my list of learning. And I'm sure I forgot a lot of things to tell you, but have fun with Duolingo. If I was just thinking about something, I just forgot it. If whatever, it's gone. Enjoy your journey in Duolingo. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel. I mostly do videos on media like drones, video editing, YouTube, graphic design, video editing, camera equipment, microphones, anything. I'm in media production, and so I try to help you guys with your production. But at the same time, Duolingo is really my BFF, and so I know a lot of people out there are probably interested in learning a language. And I know on YouTube you have some people that say, oh no, it's not helpful at all, you don't learn a language. Well, that's not true at all. If you get on Duolingo and you're persistent, I guarantee you, you will learn that language, and then you do everything else you need and you will get there. So have a beautiful day. I'll see you around. Thank you for listening to me all the way to the end. Subscribe, like, and share my video. I would be most appreciative. Have a beautiful rest of the day. I will see you around.